And okay, Mr. President of the jury, member of the jury, distinguished guest. That is my work and for obtaining the bachelor's degree in clinical psychology. Okay, Mr. President of the jury, member of the jury, distinguished guest. We are pleased to present today on this 5th September 2011 the results of the research we conduct in the district of Ngoma, Kirungo sector is actually in the Dushishoze center of Ngoma, which entitled The Pressure of Peer Group on Psychosexual Life of the Adolescent. Undertaking this research, we propose to achieve one main objective and three specific objectives. Our main objectives is identify the pressure of peer group on psychosexual life of the adolescent. The first specific objective is to identify the most ways used by adolescents to get information on sexual life. The second specific objective is to show essentially the understanding of adolescent on sexuality. The third specific objective is the role played by peer group on satisfy the curiosity of the adolescent. Mr. President of the jury, member of the jury, distinguished guests, this research aimed to make an analysis of the pressure of peer group on psychosexual life of adolescents. This aim could not be achieved without a deep analysis of the problems of adolescents and their needs. So we were on the specific case of adolescent of Kirungo sector who attended the center of Ngoma and supplemented by information gathered from peer educator, adolescent supervisor, and lecturer of INATEC. This work consists of three chapters from the general introduction and the general conclusion. We have identified the problem of the peer pressure and the exchanges of information in this group may confuse the sex life of adolescents. Particularly in this work, the adolescent is the one that consumes a lot of information about sexuality in the research for satisfaction of the curiosity. Particularly in this work, the adolescent is that consume a lot of information about sexuality in the search for satisfaction of the curiosity of this problem. One main question and the three specific questions have led us to the formulation of hypotheses was referred by our results. Now that the objective of our question has been achieved. The first chapter has defined the key concept and developed the theory based on our research topic, namely adolescence, teenager, peer group, sexuality, psychosexual life, influence, the pressure of peer group. This chapter is the overview of need for sex education, pressure of peer group, and labia elongation. It is important to say that which is somatically can be psychological, and which is psychological can be somatically. The second chapter outlines the methodology for data collection. It was deemed necessary to determine the characteristic of the parent population and beyond to explain the sampling technique to select the 50 subjects from 5 cells of Kirungo sector who attended the Dushishoze Center of Kirungo Ngoma. This was achieved by sampling technique of 21% and reason choice. 4 instruments were used for data collection, including the literature review in order to obtain written information useful to build the part of literature review. The questionnaire for adolescents who can read and write. The interview is with those who can neither read nor write. In observation, the accompanying interview for peer educator and adolescent supervisor. Mr. President of the jury, member of the jury, distinguished jurors. The third chapter is devoted to the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of results. The data analysis allowed us to confirm the hypothesis and to identify the problem faced by adolescents in the context of sexuality and the impact of the peer pressure on sexual life of adolescents. In our study, we found that most of the adolescents self-report claims sex love and satisfy curiosity caused by certain media information such as pornography, film, and express the emotion unable to dominate. These constants show that they are not well equipped to best practice of abstinence. These justify the relevance of intervention of society and the media. The data analysis allowed us to refute of our hypothesis, and there we were able to demonstrate that the peer group had positively on sex life of adolescents. Know that the positive impact of sex life of the adolescents should be based on necessary and reliable information. Thus, we propose a number of practices that are most essential in the prevention of negative pressure in the peer group. These include ear education. We need to talk the children of the problem sexuality from childhood. Mr. President of the jury, member of the jury, distinguished guests, we like to remember, we like to remind us about the answer of the research question. To answer, the main question was to see the pressure of the peer group on psychosexual life of adolescents. We found that the peer group had positively on sex life of adolescents. This is proven by the fact that 74% more information about sexuality through the peer group. We also used correlation with the help of two variables, and we saw that peer group had on sex life of the adolescent, which is 0.428 in the positive direction. The first specific question is to identify the way most used by adolescents to get information on sex life. This question has answered by the fact that 50% of adolescents surveyed are used throughout this colleague, who use also the mass media in the search of information about their sex life. Adolescents learn about sex through their mother is 34%. Adolescent surveys learn about sex through their father at 10%. But 60% of these adolescents are not interested in the adoptive family. The second specific question is to identify the understanding of adolescents on sexuality. The result of our research show that 24% of adolescents who have already made sex relationship and 75% of adolescents who have already made sexual relationship were confused about what is happening on their sex life and adopted psychosexual deviation as masturbation, homosexuality, and prostitution. A big number of them feel alone in that they take much of their time regretting the violence that has traumatized. The third specific question is to show the role played by peer group in satisfying the curiosity of adolescents. The result of our research show that 58% of respondents say that the sex curiosity has been certified through the peer group. This group is opening regarding sex life and play high role in certifying of the curiosity. Mr. President of the jury, member of the jury, distinguished guest, we like to remind us the need for sex education. It is important for parents to understanding the value of peer group for adolescents. Person is a social animal who wants to be in comparison with others of his age in his everyday life. Peer group can be a very positive influence on promoting the life of the adolescent. The positive pressure encourage of free and allow the adolescent to be what is it and to be the best. About the need for sex education, Munyandamusanaso remind us that the development of sexual organ affect the social system and psychological individual. Where we found that which is somatically can be psychological, and which psychological can be somatically. There, today, more than if a sex education is needed, help adolescents to take seriously the integration of sex life and own value system. The need for sex education is the important word, justified by 3 points mentioned as the information, education, social health protection. Mr. President of the jury, member of the jury, distinguished guest. After going through the problem of the peer pressure and the exchange of information in this group, we like to make some recommendation to various stakeholders in this area. Firstly, State of Rwanda assist Central Youth in its activity through ministries such as youth, family, education, and health to develop a package of service for younger people. Rwandan society grant a confident and secure environment in terms of sexuality. Youth Center add clinical psychology in support programs for adolescents. Add its action plan to serve the care of younger people anxious to violence. Recommendation to adolescents. Attending the Youth Center to have sufficient information on sex life and reproductive health. Avoid bad group because they have a great influence in the dialogue. Take ethic responsibility of sexuality to avoid risk behavior. Mr. President of the jury, member of the jury, distinguished guest, we cannot end this presentation without thank everyone who contribute in the completion of this work. In particular, we say thank you to Mr. Jean-Claude Miriho, who directed. To conclude, to finalize, we want to guarantee to correct an error that may have escaped our vigilance during the presentation of this work according to your remarks and comment before submitting the final document. God bless you. Thank you, and thank you all of you. Murakoze.